Yeah, well, good morning, everybody. Uh, there's some interesting developments and news on today. I'll primarily be talking about the transport aspect of it because I'd like various people and members in the group, the seniors card travel, and anyone that might be interested to discuss these things. And I prefer to do this as a video rather than using the two-finger typing just to put a few messages in. So it seems there's a bit of confusion, or more than a bit of confusion, about when the various states will unlock their borders. But let's get things moving, in other words, within the next couple of months. But Queensland is, reluctant, obstinate, call it what you like. And of course, some people would come down on their side and say, "Oh no, we've got to protect people, and we've got to don't let any cases come into Queensland." But then, on the other hand, they now say, or the health authorities say that we've suppressed the virus, certainly not cured, but we've cut it right down. That there's a few cases in Victoria still. There's a few cases in New South Wales, and a lady died there, I think yesterday. But here's the argument, shall I say, is I discussed this fairly briefly with somebody on my group. It's what you could call best case or worst case scenarios. Now, best case scenario for transport in particular would be that in the next two to 3 months at the most, a limited transport service, interstate and long distance, will occur in New South Wales and Victoria, and hopefully in Queensland and throughout Australia, really. How they do it, whether they take people's temperature, whether they ask people who are sick not to travel, and that sort of thing, may well be the case. And I understand that. But it's been discussed this morning on television. If you needed to travel interstate, say in the next couple of months, and we're not just talking about people who actually need, inverted commas, to travel, because there are many of us out there, or a select group, shall I say, of enthusiasts out there that just simply want to travel. And of course I'm very much a part of that group. But the point, I suppose, is if they had precautions, and if you sanitizer, and you washed your hands, you try and keep social distancing, here's where the problem arises. The chief executive of Qantas, Alan Joyce, made the point that they'd like to get started using half their fleet. Now this is interesting, isn't it? In about a couple of months' time. They're talking about July. Well, they run a limited service. I'm only guessing, let's say once an hour all day, Sydney-Melbourne, Sydney-Brisbane, etc. The patronage would start to pick up. They want to have full planes. Don't worry about the social distancing, because you can't have it. And as our daughter Cheryl pointed out, we're all breathing the same air. On the plane in particular, it's circulated. You can't have social distancing for a simple reason. That Virgin was talking about having middle row unoccupied, so that someone had the window and somebody else had the aisle. What about the seat in front of you? It's far less than 1.5 metres. And the seat behind you, well, maybe 2 metres there, because you're sitting back from the row, whereas the head of the person is right in front of you, 1 foot away. If you want to be rude about it, you can touch them, so they're pretty close. It can't be done, in other words. And if you get some government authorities and people saying, "Oh no, we can't have these planes with normal seating and all filled up and flying, it's too dangerous, we can't let that happen." Well, you get people like, Alan Joyce and others in charge of an airline that say, "Oh well, shut the place down, don't worry about it. Oh, when things improve and they get a vaccine in 12 to 18 months' time, or they get a cure in that amount of time, and I'd prefer to see a cure, because if anyone gets it, you just give them the thing, I don't know the name of it, that they're using. It's an anti-malaria drug, for example, but they may have something else, and you say, right, take this for 5 days. By the 3rd day, you're ordering bacon and eggs. You know what I mean? You're happy and ready to jump around. Well, you say, right, take it for 5 days, and you're on your way. It's cured. I hope and pray, shall I say, that actually occurs. If there's no actual cure right now, but they do have a vaccine, I don't want to get into the conspiracy theories and all the rest of it, and I know that some people out there think, well, yeah, they're going to have tracking devices, and they're going to do this, and they're going to do that, but best case scenario on that is, if it's completely honest and genuine, and it's only purely a vaccine if you wish to have it. It's like the flu vaccine. If you want to have it, you can have it. Now, there are cases where that causes a reaction. In fact, people have been killed by it. Or it only works in 40% of cases, by the way, so that my friends who want to jump on me over that can understand I'm aware of that. A lot of people are not aware of it, but there you go. So if they have a vaccine and they say, okay, now you can travel, you can work normally, you can travel normally, the resorts are opening up, tours are running, etc., etc., cinemas are operating, all the music festivals and sporting events, all of that is running, off you go. I still reckon that's a long way off, but it could gradually come in. Now, that's what I call the best case scenario. Now, the worst case scenario really is, they just don't allow this. They don't, as I started to touch on there a moment ago. They say, well, for example, this morning they're talking about the Olympics in Tokyo. Oh, it's set down for July next year. Well, now they're saying, don't expect that. Don't be getting advance order tickets for that one, because it may never happen. Tokyo might miss out on the Olympics, and they might have to wait for the 4 years to elapse for whoever's supposedly going to operate it then. I'm not a sporting fan in that respect, and I don't care about the Olympics, but I'm just saying for those who do, you might find it's not going to happen, and you might find the Aussie rules and the rugby and the soccer and everything they're attempting to play this year to empty stadiums, in other words 4 broadcasts, have got a problem. And this is quite a strong and severe problem. There's two areas. Number one, they don't have any income whatsoever from the people attending it. So that's a huge amount of money that they don't have. Number two, if they test their players regularly and they're ready to go, but a couple of players still get the COVID-19, they play and they say, I call it bash and crash, they want to play rugby league and all the rest of it, and they give up half a dozen other players COVID-19. Well, it's a real outbreak, and what they'd have to do is cancel the season. Guys, I'm just being completely honest about it, and I'm an Australian rules football fan, but I'd have to accept the season would be cancelled. That's what you could call worst case. Now, getting on to transport, because that's of more interest to me and people who will be watching this, I mentioned Qantas, I mentioned Virgin, I mentioned the potential for a best case success in the next 2 to 3 months, and the borders to be reopened certainly between Victoria and New South Wales. And later, and as I said, it's quite annoying, later between Queensland and New South Wales, although the Premier down in New South Wales is urging over and over and over again to get this Anastasia Palaszczuk, as she calls herself, or Palaszczuk in her real language, I don't want to argue about that, open the place up. Now, suppress it, the virus is suppressed. Grab hold of anyone that's got it and put them in isolation. If they've only got mild case, put them in hospital, etc., etc., and treat them and get them over it. Now, it's called a herd immunity. Now, Sweden has done this, that all the elderly are put away, so to speak, and carefully kept out of the way. and other people get the thing and they've got a 99% recovery rate. Now, some people might like to argue with me about that. That's not 99%, but that's what I've heard a number of times say that it is. Now, if you had a 99% chance of winning the lotto, would you buy a ticket? Of course, the answer is, of course you will. Now, people can argue to and fro on this, but now, as I said, getting on to transport there, I hope and pray that we've got full transport services back within a couple of months. Now, somebody quite rightly on the group asked, well, can I use my $2.50 ticket now? I think you could. Now, you could ring TrainLink and ask what you can do. Now, you've got a very confusing issue, or what's the word, confusing message here. It's saying, oh yes, as of 1st of June you can travel anywhere in New South Wales. Then you got the Premier, Berejiklian, saying, oh, but we only want you to stay in your regions. Well, what's a region? Well, Sydney region, yeah, okay. Out to the Blue Mountains, perhaps, down to the Southern Highlands, out to Newcastle, that's your region? I guess it is. But Broken Hill's not part of the region, is it? And yet my friend John Macaroni wants to drive out to Broken Hill, and I wish him well. I hope he does. I get to do that and have a look at some railway interest out there too, going out as far as Coburn and Silverton and those places. That'd be fantastic. But the $2.50 ticket, I do hope and pray that that's going to be available and well used and people moving around. I would like to see some trip reports on that group and tell us about the journeys. And once again, and I can't do this now because there's a limited time on this, I do enjoy the fact that my friend Kerry Whitfield is one of the ones who shares quite a lot of ideas and options on travel, and I thank him now publicly for that. And I would like more and more members to exchange ideas, concepts and that sort of thing. And I mentioned Broken Hill. Well, just briefly, you could take there's a daylight service. You could take a train and bus out to Bathurst on a Sunday, and you could get the Monday morning train out of Bathurst to Broken Hill. That'll cost you $2.50. You book with TrainLink within 7 days, and they don't mean Sunday to Sunday 7 days. It's Monday to the following Sunday. You think it's 6 days. So if you wanted to go on the Monday, on the Tuesday or Wednesday of the previous week, you ring them up and say, now next Monday, Bathurst to Broken Hill, please. And then, well, if you're going to go straight overnight and you come back through Cobar and Dubbo and back to Bathurst, that's another $2.50. That'd be on the Tuesday. And then, of course, on Wednesday you take the Bathurst Bullet. Now, I know one of them is operating, the early morning one, but hopefully the second one at about 7:30 in the morning will be operating. But if not, there is a bus at about 8 o'clock or so, takes you down to Lithgow, and you can get a train to Sydney. Of course, you can break your journey halfway and have a bit of a walk around places somewhere like Katoomba or whatever as a break of journey. But this is just ideas for everybody. So anyway, get back in touch, and I just like some civil and polite replies, as I always say, to my friends on Facebook and YouTube when I put this up. So thank you for viewing.